Hello. Good afternoon. Welcome to the 10th annual Vangermeersch Endowed lecture series. In an age of fake news and alternative facts, we at the College of Business are committed to educating students to be critical thinkers, capable of discerning facts from fiction. We are committed to producing future business leaders with a strong moral compasses, who will conduct themselves and their business with high ethical standards and lead by example. Guest lecturer like Larry Weber offers great insight into how successful companies are navigating a rapidly changing media landscape. My name is Maling Ibrahimpur. I'm Dean of the College of Business here at University of Rhode Island. I'm happy to see honored guests, honored alumni, my colleagues, friends, and most importantly, our student, the future leader of business. Of course, I'm delighted to see Lil Orek, president of Foundation, Yora Foundation. Yes. Thank you for being here. The Vangermeersch Endowed Lecture Series was established in 2008 with a gift from URI alumni Deborah Chiaffi, principal and founder of Providence Investment, and a former accounting student of Professor Vangermeersch. I'd like to recognize Professor Vangermeersch, who is with us here today. Professor Vangermeersch. Deborah is also a recipient of the College of Business Distinguished Alumni Award. And I'd like to ask Deborah to introduce our guest speaker today, Larry Weber. Deborah.
Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 10th annual Vangermeersch Lecture Series. I wanted to be the introducer this year because I wanted to give you all a little history of how was this lecture series created and founded and what it's about. My son Andrew, who's here, who's an alum, asked me, what's the theme of this thing? Why is there no theme? And I said, there is a theme. Kids always ask you these questions and you have to find an answer for them. I want to just tell you that when I started this idea, it was based on something I did when I majored in accounting and economics back in 76 to 80 was when I was here. It was a long time ago now, and you can do the math. I know all of you now calculating my age. And I did a series called the Women in Business Lecture Series. I did that to try to bring women, particularly women, to the College of Business. There weren't really that many women leaders at that time in business in particular, and we ended up getting a very eclectic mix of successful women who came to the campus and spoke to us in multiple industries and disciplines. We had banking and finance, of course, business people, who was from Old Stone Bank at the time. That bank has long since merged with many others. We had the head of Elder Affairs, Anna Tucker, who was head of Elder Affairs in Rhode Island. We had the president of RISD, Lee Hall, at the time. Many people who came through. And the idea was to host speakers who were good female role models for the students at the College of Business with a focus on thought leadership from a variety of perspectives. So it wasn't necessarily just business people. It was a variety of perspectives. And fast forward then to 2004, I was an alum, and Michaela Mooney, who's here today and back at the College of Business doing some great work, she and I came up with this idea to reinvigorate that lecture series. And it happened to be the same year that Richard Vangermeersch was retiring, 2004. And we came up with the idea of honoring his long career of service at this university, and I felt it was important to name this lecture series after him because he, first of all, inspired so many students when he was a professor here, and I thought it was fitting to have this series named after him. He not only inspired, but he entertained us as well, and I'm sure some of the alums that are here today can remember some of Richard's very spirited discussions in classes. So the broad characterization, to answer Andrew's question, what's the theme here? The broad characterization of this series has provided the flexibility to invite guest speakers from a wide variety of industries who can address a broad number of topics. And you can see in the 10 years now that we've had this lecture series, each of these posters represents the theme of that series, of that lecture that day. So we are here today now to welcome another guest, and we're very, very happy to have Larry Weber as our guest speaker today. And Dean did say a couple things about Larry. He's the chairman and founder of RacePoint Global. Larry's known globally as an expert on public relations and marketing services. He founded multiple successful public relations and interactive marketing agencies. He co-founded the largest interactive advocacy organization in the world. Larry helps both multinational and emerging companies harness authentic marketing strategies, including reinventing themselves around this new form of good to create powerhouse brands. Larry's the author of 5 innovative, forward-thinking marketing books. Some of you have a copy of one of his books at your seats, and he will be here later to autograph those copies if you would like. And he's recognized as a thought leader on digital technologies that have created seismic shifts in the practice of marketing customer engagement. Today, Larry's going to talk to us about a very current topic, which I know we all pay attention to this every day, this fake news, alternative facts, all kinds of crazy stuff going on in our world. And Larry is going to talk about media, marketing, and moral purpose in a changing world. I give you Larry Weber.
Thank you. Is this on? Can everybody hear it? Yeah. Thanks for coming. I sort of like walking around, so I hope that's not bothersome to you. I usually like to take a sort of temperature of the crowd. First, how many people have tweeted today? So not many. How many follow our president on Twitter? Not in the media, actually follow the Twitter handle. All right. How many people have Googled today? How many people have Googled more than 20 times today? How many people have Googled more than 40 times today? All right, we've reached a bit of a limit there. How many people have been on LinkedIn today? How many people have been on Facebook today? How many people have watched Facebook Live today? It's interesting that's so small. All right, how many people have been on Instagram today? Oh, who's on it right now? Oh, thank you for your attention. No. How about primary news sources? CNN, anyone? NBC, ABC, CBS? The Skim? Breitbart? Nobody? Come on. We can be open, here. How about Washington Post? New York Times? We have any foreign media that you follow? Anybody follow Financial Times, for example? The Economist? China Morning Post? No. Providence Journal? It's a good paper, All right. Websites, favorite websites. How many people have shopped on Amazon recently? Wow. All right. And how many of you actually watch commercials while you're watching television? It's amazing. That's usually the answer in every place I speak, and I'm still amazed that we're spending almost $300 billion on television advertising. It should all just be sent to charity, right? Fascinating to me. All right, and then how about books? How many of you read real books versus digital books? And how many of you read digital books versus real books? Yeah, both. Okay. All right. Well, I thought I'd break this up into at least addressing some of the initial stuff, because I've been a student of media, since graduate school, and sort of how I got into this business. I didn't get the job at the Wall Street Journal that I wanted coming out of graduate school, because they thought I was too flowery of a writer. So, and I wasn't doing a very fact-based kind of writing, was more of a feature writer. So I ended up teaching in a prep school for 2 years, and then I wrote a brochure, which was flowery, I think. But it was, I got my check, and it was for more than my whole year of teaching, so I decided to follow business for a while, and that turned out okay, all right? But I've been fascinated about being authentic in marketing, about telling the truth, about being transparent, about being thoughtful, and I have tried to balance both sides of the equation. This past 2 years has been fascinating in media, I mean, obviously. And I'll take plenty of questions at the end if I can answer. I try not to get emotional about the state of media today. I try to keep it balanced. I have a deep respect for most of the media that I've spoken to you about. Two that, even though I have to say sometimes come across on the liberal side, are the Washington Post, the New York Times. I know them deeply. I know a number of the writers there. I know the editorial board. And I'll tell you, they are very responsible people. They check facts, they're thoughtful, and they're careful in what they do, all right? Sure, do they make mistakes? Yeah, all media makes mistakes. The Washington Post, I think, is a little more aggressive, believe it or not, than the New York Times, especially on things relating politically, all right? And I think both of those mediums did make mistakes in covering the election by actually covering what I term as unsubstantiated announcements. So a number of, Twitter to me is not news, all right? So we can talk about it. I think Twitter is not going to be around eventually, and there's a sort of odd pronouncement. I think it's a bridge technology, a bridge social technology, and it's still part of the broadcast era. So we have separated, I thought, from the broadcast era long ago, but it's obvious that we're being dragged back in by what I would call bridge technologies and bridge social technologies, all right? And I do think one of the most impactful inventions in the next generation of social media today is actually Facebook Live. And if they can figure out, Facebook, how to use software filters properly and how to monitor these kinds of situations and not just be a platform, which is going to be hard for them because that's what they set up. They and Google have set themselves up to try to have the best of both worlds, right? Well, how can you be a platform and let anything fly? We just saw, right, in all seriousness, the murder of someone in Cleveland, all right, was on Facebook Live. I mean, terrible, right? But you see a medium that's obviously going to catch on, in my opinion. All right, how is that going to be editorialized? How is that going to be protected a bit? All right, we have a government, talk about the FCC, we have government, all right, that is really living maybe 20, 25 years ago on really understanding what needs to happen from protecting people and having the right software filters, having the right truth filters, all right, that are going to help get and explain the facts that are being seen. How many of us watch Fox? It's okay. Okay. All right. Now, Fox is brilliant, right? But the one thing they didn't do is they don't, which disturbs me, is they don't harp on defining what opinion news is. Opinion is not news to me. Opinion is opinion. And I think everybody's allowed to have their opinion, and they can voice their opinion. But label it opinion before, during, and after the show. All right? And I think it's really critical that that be done. All right? And if it's not opinion, if it's purely fact, that is what we should be getting straight from without the opinion of a writer or a journalist. It should be presented. And I think the Wall Street Journal to a more right side. I think the New York Times, Washington Post, The Economist, all right, do a very good, at least in English, do a very good job at that. This idea of alternate facts and fake news is disturbing, but I think it will pass as well. All right, I think people are well educated, they're smart enough, and they're going to understand that there has to be a move back toward validation. All right, and I think you're going to see an equal and opposite reaction to fake news and alternative facts in a validating way. And I don't think I'm dreaming right here, or I'm not having a year of magical thinking. All right, I do think that this is going to happen, and it's got to continue to be, again, driven fact-based versus opinion-based. And again, it's fine, opinions, and anybody should have an opinion and be able to write about it, and people can buy that or they don't have to buy it. All right, but the media is trying to figure out a way to stay relevant, right, in a world where we're in charge. One of the best things that happened to me in my career was introducing a little-known language called HTML in 1992 by a little British researcher named Tim Berners-Lee. Now, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, and that, of course, another name for that is the World Wide Web and the World Wide Web Consortium. And I knew everything was going to change. But you have to take the positive also with the dark. And we are still really early in the internet. I mean, that's not even 25 years ago, all right, that we talked about the web and the future of the web and where that was going to go. And the reason, how many of you know why Tim invented the web, or HTML? Anybody? It was actually academic. Yeah, he was frustrated at doing research in CERN, at his laboratory in Switzerland, that there were other people doing the same types of research at other universities and research centers, and he wanted some way to layer onto the ARPANET, a way to share research information. So it was a noble cause, right? It was something that was very thoughtful on his part. But as it started to take off, we had that first generation of commerciality come jumping in. Of course, that broke down, and that was in 2001, if you all remember, because we had everything from furniture.com to shoes.com to, and some of it make it. I always remember, because we worked for a lot of these companies, I always remember furniture.com, and the guy had raised $50 million, but he forgot about what if people wanted to return the furniture. So there was like story after story there. But the internet has really evolved into a place where you can really do or say anything, and it's not police. It's not run by anybody, all right, except I do like that New Yorker cartoon a couple of years ago where you were it was the Arab Spring, if we all remember, and the cartoon was a president of one of the countries in the Middle East had a giant switch in his office, and it just said internet off on. And so, the controlling of that kind of thinking and information is something that we have to be aware of. I'm also personally, don't label me completely liberal, because I'm not. I think the internet should be completely free. I think it should be viewed as a utility, all right? And so we can talk about that if you want, but I think connectivity in a digital age is the right of everyone. And to belong to networks that you want to belong to, all right, is really your right as well. So, I really believe that editorial needs to be stronger. I think we need, again, more vocal rules about what's happening with the news that's coming out. I think we need to be unemotional about it. And I also do believe, though, that part of it is also what I heard one my friends, he's a good writer, writes for the New Yorker, another, I guess, considered a little left-leaning, but I think well-written piece, Malcolm Gladwell, who, by the way, keeps writing the Tipping Point every book. But anyway, but I think Malcolm had a theory, too, about, and a couple other people, that the reason there was a lot of this fake news came and alternative facts became so popular was people had this rally mentality. And part of it was due to this last election. I won't mention who the candidate was. But, you know, the idea was you're going to go to a URI football game, all right? And you're all excited about URI playing football, right? And you have the night before, and you're all excited, except you're playing Ohio State. All right? And it's like, you know, if you're sitting there, you go, we're going to get killed. All right? But that doesn't stop you from loving University of Rhode Island football and believing everything the coach says and everything the players say. Yes, we're with you, we're with you, we're with you. We know you're going to win. And then you lose 63-0. All right? But then that's okay. You're on to the next rally mentality. All right? You're on to the next non-reality thing. How many of us have had an experience like that? Where you know in reality it's probably not right. It's probably not going to work out. But you know what? There's always that hope, you know? There's always that hope. And that's okay. But again, that's bringing emotionality into journalism, is what that happened. And I just think that that's playing with fire, all right? And that's dangerous. So let me leave that part there, okay? And please formulate any questions you want on that. But trust me, I think we're going to start moving back to a more validity-based editorializing and a validity-based media. All right, but we're always going to have the show, right? People yelling at each other. I can't watch CNN anymore. Not that I don't like CNN, but when they start yelling at each other, you know, back and forth, it's just too much. It's, you know, and maybe I'm being old-fashioned. I liked being in an Oxford debate, you know, and they had rules and they had politeness, all right, and it wasn't a food fight, all right. All right, let's move to digital marketing, branding, and again, write down questions if you have. I believe that there's two sumo wrestlers for the future of the internet, all right? And those are Google and Amazon. I'll tell you why I don't think it's Facebook in a minute, all right? And I think the winner is going to be Amazon. And let me give you an example. I got an Alexa about a year and a half ago, and Echo, I guess, is anybody have an Echo? Okay, not too many. You guys are missing out. I mean, really, for $250, I come in to the, you know, the kids are all gone now, so I come down for breakfast, and there's like 2 dogs and the coffee machine and Alexa. You know, and I go, Alexa, what's the weather today? The weather today in Boston, blah, 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 you know. Oh, what are the headlines, Alexa? Oh, you know. And then I see a note from my wife. Could you order a case of Bounty paper towels? Alexa, can you get a case of Bounty paper towels? Yes, that'll be there tomorrow on your Prime account. Okay, and then when I come home at night and I'm making a drink, Alexa, can you play soft jazz? Soft jazz. All right, how much information is Alexa and Amazon getting on Larry? You think a little bit? What I order, and now you can order fast food. All right, I can order from the local pizza place in West End. All right? I mean, come on. I mean, and I'm okay with that, by the way. We can have a talk about privacy, too, if you'd like. I'm okay with all that. It's where we're going to have a fight again on privacy, because I think we've already lost all that. I think that's done with. We're not getting that back. But where we're going to have a fight is on health-related data. And that's going to be coming, I think, in the next year or two. Because if I am in that room and I'm coming home and I'm telling my wife about my prostate cancer, now we're getting serious, right, about data. All right, it's not about what cereal I like or paper towels. All right, so again, when can a government be good is maybe when they sort of think about the future a little bit on some of these kinds of things. But I think that's something that should be more concerning, less about if I like Brooks Brothers, you know, button-down shirts or smooth jazz at 6 o'clock in the evening, all right, kind of thing. Now, and who's trying to copy that, of course? Google Home. So I got one of those for my library because I wanted to compare. Now, Google's pretty cool because they're coming at it from how to run your house. All right, so I can go to Google now because I had the Nest put in, and it was very inexpensive, the thermostat just for the library. And I said, could you make it 68, please? 68. I mean, how cool is that, you know? So I think Amazon's also going to win because they're also doing their own entertainment now, right? We've all noticed that. So they're creating content, which is hugely important for this next generation of marketing and digital marketing. Because marketing's definition hasn't changed. My definition for marketing is the influence of opinion through content. The influence of opinion through content. Validated content. All right? But content strategies are going to be huge in what we're going to do. Facebook is going to have trouble because of just being a platform. And they're going to have to, at some point, make a decision if they're also going to be an editor, all right, a sharer of data, and where their innovation is going to come from. So I'm picking Amazon, who's right now probably building 5 monopolies, including supply chain. I heard there's a master here now on supply chain. Study Amazon, you know, not only delivery, retail, the future of retail, all right, that they're dealing with, all right, and then future of content creation and what that's happening, and obviously, you know, data and the use of data and analytics. So how many of you have heard the ideas of big data? All right, so forget that, all right? And if your professors are teaching you about big data, say, Mr. Weber said to forget that. All right, and the reason is we have more data than we know what to deal with. Where are the software engines that turn that into analytics, that turn that into actionable advice? All right, marketing is no longer a noun. That's what it's been for almost 100 years. What do I mean by that? You make your ad, you're done. You make your press release, you're done. You make your annual report, you're done. All right, now it's always on. It's always going. It never stops. It's a verb. And it's become horizontal in businesses. It's not vertical marketing anymore. Finance has stayed vertical. All right, marketing is cutting across. Anything that touches a customer is marketing. I'm amazed at going into big companies and they still have customer support reporting to finance. United Airlines. Where did customer support report to? No, operations. Why operations? Because we remove people from planes like that. You know? No. All right? How do you organize around connectivity with customers and what you do? The next most important thing is customer experiences. We've got to create digital experiences that are very much engaging. And we're still way far away from that. How do you get people to engage? And I try to use an example, a school example. In our family, I was in charge of and looking for colleges for the kids. And for our oldest daughter, I must have looked at 30 websites, all right? And guess what? I was convinced that there was one agency that does all university and college websites. Why was that? Because the landing page of I haven't seen URIs recently. You could pull it up if you want. But usually the landing page of every university and college is the campus in fall, changing colors of leaves, and there's an African American, an Asian, and a Caucasian smiling and walking with their backpacks across the quad. And then there's About Us, the menu, right? Visit Us, you know. So I was convinced that this was all the same. All right, a landing page isn't the quad. Oh, we're in a library? Oh, there's a quad, yeah, okay. So, but anyways, about into number 30 of the websites, I got to a little school that she didn't go to, but I was impressed, called Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And it did have the quad in fall, and it had the 3 students. But if you pressed, all right, About Us, guess what came on? There was a video of a girl student looking right out at me. And she had a big Trinity across her hoodie, and she dropped her backpack, and she looked right at me out of my computer, and she said, "My name's Bernadette, and I'm a senior at Trinity College. It has changed my life. I'd like to take you on a digital tour." And I went, "You go, girl." You know, because it was like, wow, yeah, you know, you finally got some engagement. This is what we do for companies now all the time. For John Deere, we're trying to tell farm stories and dairy farm stories and, you know, bringing, you know, sort of that excitement and that engagement of content to people. And you're going to see more and more of that. It's how you have a content strategy based on the analytics, based on the data that was collected, all right, and where you go and what you do. The next thing you're going to see in marketing too is my 89-year-old dad just looked up from his dinner when I was out visiting him a few months back, and out of the blue he goes, "Larry, Google sucks." And I go, "Dad, what are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, I didn't know all that first answers that came on Google were ads." And I said, "Dad, how do you think they make so much money?" And then he said, "How come I get 10,000 answers for every question? I just had a simple question, you know, about the side effects of a new prescription I'm taking," all right? And so I think they need to really focus on owning search for a long time, and they're going to have to focus on social search. And that's going to be just like TripAdvisor. How many of you use TripAdvisor? All right, enough people. But you know, that idea of someone you know sharing the experience of the search and where you're going and what you're doing. All right. Virtual reality. Anybody have an Oculus or played with it or anything like that? Yeah? Did you enjoy it? Yeah. There's a cool one on YouTube about going to Mars in a school bus, and they put virtual reality on the windows for the kids, and they're driving all around Washington, D.C., but they think they're on Mars. And it's very cool. So you start to see the power of where this all is going. How many of you use Netflix? Oh, my God. So everybody. All right. So the power to create your own thing. Anybody want to guess why the advertising industry is still so strong in broadcast? Have you noticed that there's more live shows than there's ever been on television? All right, and that's because it's harder to get rid of the ad when you're live all the time. So that's why you have more reality shows, you have more sports shows, and eventually that's got to crack, right? That's got to go down. And I'm seeing budgets completely move. General Electric moving huge budgets to building content on the web. John Deere, IBM still doing some branded work, you know, like supporting the golf tournament, the Masters that we just had. But you're seeing more and more of the money moving to that way. All right. I think you're going to see marketing departments in businesses that are more like a media center, all right? So you're really reacting, you're building, you're moving content around, you're working through, you know, the strategies, you know, to fulfill with that kind of content and where you have to work. The other thing I would tell the students in the room especially is, how many of you know how to program? Even a little bit? Okay. I would take a really beginning programming course if you have a chance to, no matter what your major is. because the integration of software and marketing is going to be huge. We're already seeing marketing automation, companies like Marketo, Eloqua, HubSpot, based up in Cambridge. All right, these are companies that you should know about at your age. It's going to be important that you understand how they integrate things and what kind of technology to use. When I was growing up in marketing, there was just agencies. Now there's at least 7 what I call tribes. There's the consulting companies trying to get into marketing, McKinsey, Bain, BCG. There's the software companies, Salesforce, if you heard, Salesforce.com, Oracle, SAP, IBM. All right, you have the marketing automation people. You still have the agencies. So now you have, again, 6 or 7 types of groups trying to take on the kinds of marketing that's happening and where it's going. So I would look at, that kind of a landscape, how software is being used, and it's really actually quite important. And also IT, there must be courses here on IT and where it's going. That is completely bifurcating. So you have 2 ITs that are occurring, and the best analogy I can tell you, it's like a house where all the stuff that keeps the house working is in the basement. So it's important stuff, but it's relegated to where you don't go very much, and that's going to be a lot of what the core IT was. All right, and what's the new IT? It's business related, and so it's running the family room, or it's running the kitchen. All right, so it's running the way that you want to live and what to do. You've all heard the Internet of Things, right? That's really what, the beginning of Echo and Google Home. All right, AI's big thing right now, machine learning, thinking, that's becoming quite important in marketing because of things like Alexa and Echo, right? You've learned me so well that you're actually anticipating and predicting what I'll need. All right, and you'll know when I run out of paper towels. All right, so, that's all going to be software-driven marketing. It's important. And then I'll just move into the last category. I'm working on my 6th book, which is right now, the working title is called Reinventing Good. And I think that where we're going, I hope where we're going, is that there's going to be 3 business strategies that exist simultaneously for most businesses. What has been to date is it was always the business strategy that came first. All right, we can't do anything else until we have the business strategy. And then it was usually once we had the business strategy, we're going to have the communications and marketing strategy. And then if we make money and we have time, we're going to have a moral strategy. All right, and we might have a philanthropy group or whatever, like that. I'm arguing at least the business schools I speak at, that your business strategy, your communications and marketing strategy that connects to customers, and a moral strategy all have to exist in parallel and at the same time. A great example right now is John Deere, all right? Almost 150 years old, but what they're doing is repositioning themselves as a data and an agriculture precision company, not just green tractors. So the business strategy, the communication strategy is to communicate that with content along the web, from having a YouTube channel, all right, that's consistent and disciplined, not that anybody can do a YouTube, all right? And what's their moral strategy? If you followed them, you would see their moral strategy is how are you going to feed 2 billion more people on this planet? So you've got the 3 strategies braided together that is going to create a powerful brand that you just stand back and let it be transparent and let your customers tell the story, all right, after they've actually engaged with the content and the work. I was amazed. We do a lot of work for IBM, and I was amazed when we first looked at their YouTube presence. They had no rules about YouTube. There were some that were 10 minutes long, some 1 minute long. Some had blue in them, some had green in them. So this next generation of web content has to be more disciplined. It can be fun, but it's got to be more disciplined to engage people because you get so many messages. And I don't know if you believe this, but now human beings, supposedly, according to psychology today, our attention span, I'm so proud of you all for listening, our attention span has now gone a second below goldfish. So we've gone from 9 seconds to 8 seconds, you know. So, you know, to keep our attention, especially in a digital environment, is going to be extremely difficult and important. So I'm very much positive, in my view, of businesses that are going to try to use those 3 types of strategies in telling stories. And I think we're going to have to be some of the greatest marketers today, I believe. I think Apple is not. I think it was. But I think Apple's become, how many of you have an iPhone? Everybody. All right, so I think they're becoming a fashion company. And I think they're going to be able to get $500 for a telephone because it's going to be like Gucci or, you know, some kind of fancy branding where you can buy a Huawei phone in the next coming year for $50 that does more than what the iPhone does. So what's that going to do, you know, when you have technology innovation? How about you guys? What are some companies that really impress you from a branding and or and it can be a consumer company or a business company? Any companies come to mind if you had a?
Venmo.
Yeah, very good, especially to your age, right? Yeah. Although Jeff, my youngest, is spending a lot with Venmo. Yeah. Yeah. Venmo, V-E-N-M-O. It's the way to share payments with your friends. Like if you all go out for pizza and beer, you know, and one guy pays for it, you can, you know, am I describing it right enough? Yeah, okay. Yeah, NVIDIA. Yeah, I think very good. Everybody know NVIDIA? No, they're the integrated circuit leader for visualization. All right, so doing an excellent job at that, especially in a world, I'm glad you brought that up, in a world that when you do study the software impact, you know, the ability to actually think visually is going to be extremely important for your guys' age. All right, even though I believe in the written word and love the written word, if you can explain something visually, it's going to be so much more powerful than having to read something. Think of the example of the college, right? You know, I could have read all about Trinity College, but instead I had a young woman who changed her life. All right, tell me about that. That's very powerful to me. Any other companies come to mind? Patagonia. Very good early pioneer in moral purpose, right? And also good clothing, you know, telling a good story. Love their website, I think. New website at Patagonia. I mean, just everything I'm talking about. By the way, they have a case study. You have to buy the subscription, but maybe the library at URI has a Forrester research subscription, but they have a whole explanation of how they built their last website, you know, through Forrester and kind of thing. Yes?
I'm impressed with
Tom Brady's brand? Mm-hmm. It helps that he wins so much, too. Yeah.
But
and has the most beautiful wife in the world, right?
He's not too bad looking himself.
Yeah, yeah.
He has the brand about like peak performance and sustainability, so he's living it, but then he's product.
I don't know how he's, I think he's very good too, must have good advisors, but I don't know how he could go into so many businesses. You know, I think his issue is going to be how do you focus on, you know, is it yoga pants for men, or, you know, is it, you know, the great drinks, you know, or whatever kind of thing. A couple more, anybody? Yeah.
SRI?
Yeah, SRI. Yeah, I think a good brand. Yeah, and doing some really good things. Yeah. Fox?
VOX.
Vox.
News service.
Yeah, I think very good too. Yeah. Yeah, Under Armour, I think really good. And there's a company that tells more stories, unless you don't see that many ads for Under Armour. They're trying to take a more, you know, engaged route kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, I think LL Bean has waken up in the last few years. I think they're trying. I think she should not be so political, the daughter, but but at least if she has the bean boots on, she won't get into too much muck. you know. But I think obviously, again, a brand that can tell a story, right? And the greatest brands tell the greatest stories, and they don't try to get off what their DNA was. You know, I tell brands all the time when they want to try to reposition themselves, you can't get away from what brought you here. All right, you have to figure out a way to respect the past, you know, and build on that past in a new and innovative way.
So we've been studying more recently Coca-Cola.
Yeah. You know, they're in a tough spot. You know, I like, we used to do a lot of work for Coke back in the Weber days, my Weber days, and McCann Erickson days. But, you know, they're in a tough spot where soft drinks consumption has gone down for the, 12th year in a row, something like that. I mean, how many people had a Coke today? 3 people. All right. And a little older. All right. What did you guys drink? How many people had a coffee today? Like everybody, right? Dunkin' Donuts? Starbucks. URI coffee. Isn't bottled water the top seller now? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, huh? Tesla. How about Tesla? Valued at, anybody have a Tesla? No Tesla owners here? You know? All right. What, they passed the value of General Motors, I think, last week, something like that. I do not have a Tesla, but I got in my friends out in Silicon Valley, and his first name is Reed, and he said, why don't you drive it, Larry? And I sat down, and the first thing the car said to me, you're not Reed. I thought that was pretty good, you know, and I just said where I wanted to go, and, you know, and I mean, you know, Elon's made more of a brand of himself, too, which is sort of copies the technology world that always made brands out of their CEOs, you know, and kind of thing. So, but Coke, I don't know. You know, I wouldn't have an answer for Coke except to diversify, you know, which I think they're doing. Dasani water, I mean, they have, you know, things, yeah. Yeah, I always liked Tom's. Anybody bought Tom's shoes? Yeah, so yeah, I like that idea. That's like cause-related marketing. It had its beginnings in the 80s, 70s kind of thing. But I liked Tom's idea. It was if you buy a pair of shoes, they'll buy a pair for you know, a kid in a developing world, right? Isn't that nation or something like that? I think cause-related still has a place. Kind of thing. I don't believe a website should be big and deep, by the way, as well. Like if my one middle daughter says I'm not allowed to use this example anymore because the Soviet Union might be coming back, she said. But I liken big corporate websites to the breakdown of the Soviet Union, just the weight of so much information and data. And you can't get around, all right? One cool thing to test, and then I'll take some questions. One cool thing to test, too, is search engines on websites. I tried at one of the most prestigious Ivy League schools. I just wanted to get the name of the Board of Trustees. Board of Trustees, okay, in the search box. What did I get? My first answer was a news release from 4 years ago. All right, I would be interesting sometime to check URI's, you know, box. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, and just ask a very straightforward search question and see if you get, you know, see if you get an answer. So the basics, but back to the big websites, I think the future of sites are going to be small and networked. So there should be there should be sites for the specific schools within the university. All right. There should be more videos of the faculty, of the students. All right, get rid of text as much as you can, and make them smaller, skinnier sites that are networked with one another. All right, is where that's going to go. So, anyways, I'm sure I'm missing a lot. Read my last book. all the royalties go to charity for that book. So, and I wrote that one because when I went on Amazon, there were just books on search engine optimization. There were just books on software, marketing software and marketing automation. There were just books on data and analytics. And what I wanted to do was give people like a New Yorker map for marketing. So it's actually based on a favorite book of mine written in the 1960s called Ogilvy on Advertising, all right, which gave you a whole landscape of the television age of marketing. And what I tried to do here was give you a complete landscape of the digital marketing. And I think it will hold for about 10 years now, 90% of what it is. It really is formatting, and everything has to catch up to it. But I'd be glad to answer any questions on marketing, on the future of the web, the future of social media. If you want to talk a little bit more about alternate facts and tweeting and the exhaustion we've all been through the last few months trying to make things of that. Yes?
I have a question. Early on, I think you said that you felt that fake news was going to die out because people are smart.
No.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
No, I think fake news will always be around. By the way, you and I think you're close to my age. But, fake news has been around since before we were born. Our parents just happened to call it propaganda. It's amazing that word hasn't come up very much, in this. Do we all know what propaganda is, students? It's fake news, okay. But I think we're always going to have fake news. By what I was saying was I think there's going to be more filters that actually label it as fake news so that we will not be as sucked in, all right, to what it's about. And again, it's us to be vigilant to have really the idea of validation, Like I sort of accepted when my mom would say, well, Walter Cronkite said that, Larry. He was a very famous journalist in my parents' age, everyone. But, when somebody says to me, it's hard for me not to laugh, but I try not to be cynical anymore. But when I saw it on the internet, really? When the internet gets the same weight as the New York Times, all right? So I'm hoping that there's just more of a move for some type of understanding of validation. We're not going to get rid of fake news. I mean, and again, it's going to be opinionated. And people are going to go and hear things that they want to hear, right? I think that's another thing that, or read what they want to read. And I still think that's fine. Just know that that's opinion, and it might not be based on real facts. So, anyway, yeah.
Hi. So I was just wondering, so it seems that I read in the news the other day that Amazon is totally altering the end of their supply chain operations and they're moving to drones now. Do you think that's a good idea in terms of profit for them? And do you think that other companies like Google or eBay are going to follow suit in that?
Yeah, I don't think Google or eBay will necessarily follow suit in that. I think drone experiments are going to be important. I think that's sort of last yard and, but again, how's it going to be regulated in highly populated areas? We haven't seen much from the government on regulating drones except around airports, so I think it's something that has a lot of promise, drones. I'll tell you one little thing. It's sort of drone related. So I was on a panel with the guy that started Starbucks, Howard Schultz, right? Yeah. And so afterwards, we were talking, and he said, would you mind being a guinea pig for one of the marketing programs that we're trying to do? And I said, okay. And I gave him my card, and he said, somebody will be in touch with you. And I said, okay. And I didn't hear anything, and about 2 months later, I get an email, and I was supposed to fill out sort of a survey monkey. Everybody knows, questionnaires for dummies. And, what do I usually buy when I go to a Starbucks? So I said, I usually get 4 shots of espresso over ice so that I can really get going, And then if you get something to eat, what do you eat? And I said, well, yeah, I'll get a breakfast sandwich now and then, kind of thing. And few other things. And then I don't hear from them again. Oh, and I gave them my phone number, okay, which I thought was fine. And I took my middle daughter with me to London, and we woke up in the hotel, and I get a text from Starbucks. And the text says, Larry, please come across the street to 356 Kensington Avenue for your free quad espresso over ice and 25 pence off your breakfast sandwich. I went, cool. Let's go try. Now, Julia freaks out, my middle daughter, and goes, Dad, a drone could wipe you out. They know exactly where you are, you know. And I said, well, I'm not going to worry about that. So I go in and I hold up my phone, and sure enough, I got a free coffee and I got money off of my breakfast sandwich. And I'm like, I'm all there. And I didn't even get to that part of marketing because we didn't have time. But the whole loyalty part, we should not have to manage loyalty programs at all. I should be able to walk into a store, have my phone hidden, and that person that's helping me say, Mr. Weber, you know you have a free Oxford cloth shirt waiting for you because you have enough points on Brooks Brothers. That's what should happen. Now, where drones play in that, I don't know, but I do think drones are very important for the end of the supply chain. I'm also fascinated that Amazon's opening a few physical stores, you know, so they're coming in the back way, you know. But, you know, Staples, I mean, we helped Staples for a little bit there, and I was like, building these giant stores, I just didn't understand, and I knew there was going to be trouble, you know, brewing there. And they said, well, people still like to shop, and I go, yeah, but do people really want to browse for printer ink? You know, it's like, really? You know, so I think online things and stuff like that. Yes?
Last year's Vangermeersch lecture was on transparency and in cause marketing.
Yep.
And you mentioned authenticity in brand marketing.
Yep.
Are there measurement or analytics tools that can help you measure the authenticity of a brand?
Yeah, there's sort of the Edelman Trust Barometer is one thing that sort of does that. It's a giant PR firm. But we are one of the weaknesses of today's marketing, especially from social media, is the lack of a new set of measurement tools and measurement nomenclature. Like, we should have engagement time as a measurement, you know. I mean, if one last story, and then I'll take a couple. Should I? Okay. This is a good story, all right? It's about Amazon, all right? So I got something called permission-based marketing, which is a very underutilized type of marketing, which is once you're already a customer of somebody, like a bank, you know, or your Uber or whatever, they should be allowed to send you an email now and then, not to be like a pest, right, but like to offer you something or to do something. So Amazon sends me this permission-based email, Dear Larry. We know because, right, they have all of my behavior, all right? They said, we know you like John Updike. For those who don't know, American writer, died a couple years ago. And we just secured some rare videos of him reading from his Rabbit novel series. And, you know, if you'd like, take a watch. And this was just the time that video was going deep into Amazon, okay, kind of thing. So I remembered this, and I took a glass of wine into my library. You're going to say, Larry, you really have to get a life. But, all right, I proceed to be on Amazon for an hour and a half. Now, why was I on Amazon for an hour and a half, other than being bored, maybe? But I go watch these videos, and they're pretty cool. And then guess what? The reference engine software kicks in, right? If you like this, you'd like that. All right? So all of a sudden, I go over and I see William Faulkner. Now, remember this one. And he won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1949, I think. I could be wrong on that one. But guess what? They had a video of him accepting his Nobel Prize. I had never seen it. And I like most of Faulkner's work, so I watched that video. Then I watched a number of others, and then I went to read a review of my latest book, not this one, the one before, which I liked that book a lot, and this guy from Taiwan hated it. And I couldn't give him his money back, but, you know, he didn't, have it. But anyway, I read a few reviews of my book. And then I had just read Malcolm Gladwell's, like, What the Dog Ate or What the Dog Saw or something, and I wrote a bad review of that book. All right, and I wrote a review of another one that I really liked, and I'm not a history buff, but I loved Doris Kearns Goodwin's Team of Rivals. So I wrote, like a lot of people, a glowing review of that. Then I must have looked at maybe 30 books, and I bought about 15. All right, all in all, hour and a half, spent $300. And what had happened? I was, in a way, entertained, right? And in a way, I was part of a community, a little bit, right? Reading reviews and writing reviews. E-commerce, I bought stuff. And then I went on 2 weeks later, and what's the first thing that comes up? Larry, would you like $5 off on the upcoming biography of William Faulkner? Yes. Data, analytics. Yeah, anyway. A couple more questions? Yes? United, yeah. I'm not a crisis communications person, but
Well, from a marketing perspective.
I just don't know what they were thinking. I mean, it's just stupid.
As they go forward, because in
Well,
addition to what they
the CEO made such a mistake. The CEO made such a terrible mistake in a environment of social media. I mean, people were screaming on the plane, and he said, "Well, we did everything right, and don't say anything until you know the details." Again, I'm not a crisis person. It'll take them a while, but the sad part about the inundation of social media is we all forget so quickly because we're on to the next crisis or the next thing. But I think they need to change, become very transparent and continually apologize. But that story's going to stay around for a while because there's going to be the lawsuits and and
Yeah, but still, if they offer the cheapest ticket, I'm going to fly them.
yeah, yeah.
will never offer the cheapest.
Yeah, I don't. It's a tough one, But I mean, that's why transparency is in the age of social media. Transparency is the best policy, I think. Yes.
So I've been listening to you talk, and I kind of have a three-part question all related to the same thing. Sorry, it's a lot. So I guess based on what you're saying, one of the largest obstacles that you guys have as a digital marketing firm is inciting similar emotions to the end user. So for example, when you went on the Chinese websites that you're looking at, you got a similar emotion, but it wasn't a wow emotion.
Yep.
And then when you went on the Trinity website, you were able to get that wow emotion
Yep.
because of that video. So my question then segues into, are companies like Amazon adding that wow emotional factor into
Yep.
ordering everyday goods?
Yeah, there's a whole area. I start a little bit in this book on psychodynamics, and you have Samsung's new television actually is taking reactions of your face to things that you're watching, and so there's real-time research being gathered like that. And I think what they're trying to put together, I think I saw one study that there are basically 11 reactions that are the most 92% of all people stay within 11 reactions, either like it very much or hate it very much, and then everything in between. And so there's sort of that analytic that I think is only going to get better, but it's got to be used, and then we have to have the measurement for it, like I was talking about. The point of that Amazon story was, how about engagement time as how about sharing? Would you share something? So it's the same thing as you react to things. It's also, what do you do with that information? Will you share that story or that link? I mean, I'm a little afraid. I don't know why. My latest thing is I'm being drowned with emoticons, and I'm afraid that we're all going to wake up in 10 years and there'll be no English language. It'll just be faces and flowers and and everything. But anyway, that's a whole science that's being developed. I would follow, if you're interested in it, follow what Nielsen is doing in that sort of psychobehavior kind of analytics, to go to their site, and or Kantar Media, Kantar, media to learn about that kind of thing.
Take one more question and wrap up.
Sure. Yes.
How much can we trust the reviews on Amazon or any website? Like, how can we filter out these fake reviews?
Yeah, I think Amazon's gotten better at that, at doing that. I don't trust Yelp that much anymore, so I don't know if you all do. Be careful. TripAdvisor's tried to have better filtration, of the reviews. But remember human behavior too. If there's one thing to learn, is people that are happy with a service or something usually don't go write about it, believe it or not. It's always if something bad happened or wrong happened that they want to write about something. So if you really liked something, if it stood out, I would tell you, join the positive side of things and, and put it out. You're sweet to listen to me. Thank you very much.
For her initiation of the lecture series, and also Michaela Mooney here, who helped me on the retirement dinner, and Deborah and Michaela are people who like to take risks. And I think this was something that really was helpful because I wanted to do different things for the retirement dinner. And Michaela was willing to go along with it. And we experimented and we said yes to everything. And they were willing to take risks. And for you are right, bureaucrats to take risks is a major plus. Believe me. I would urge you to go a little outside your comfort zone, whatever that is, and take that particular. Finally, the College of Business next year will be celebrating its 95th anniversary, and obviously in 5 more years, which will be 2023, we'll be celebrating our centennial. And I'm hoping here that this lecture series will be a kickoff for both celebrations, because celebrations are great things, and we have a cake here. So thank you very much for coming.